Hi Founder fans, Jason here, and today we'll be talking about the Declaration signer who succeeded Thomas Jefferson as the governor of Virginia. Today's subject is a man named Thomas Nelson Jr. Now, Thomas Nelson Jr., as I said, would go on to sign the Declaration of Independence and had for a long time served in Virginia's House of Burgesses, where he was associated with the other rebels from Virginia. Now, what's really interesting about Thomas Nelson is he was from Yorktown, Virginia, where years later, of course, the final climactic battle of the Revolutionary War would take place. But in November of 1774, just after some of his colleagues returned to Virginia from the First Continental Congress, he decided to join with a few other people and mimic the Boston Tea Party, by which I mean he helped throw the Yorktown Tea Party. Yes, there was also a Yorktown Tea Party. There were actually several tea parties throughout the colonies, but the Yorktown Tea Party was more of a symbolic gesture. The First Continental Congress had just declared a boycott on British goods. Boston had demonstrated their distaste for the tea tax by dumping a lot of tea into the waters. In the Yorktown Tea Party, Thomas Nelson and his associates, they threw 2 chests of water, technically half chests of tea into the water. So, like I said, it was more symbolic because the gentleman who had arrived with this tea shouldn't have, and that man would actually end up going on to apologize. Now, through this method, Thomas Nelson had proven he was a patriot dedicated to pretty much independence at that point, so he was then sent by Virginia to the Second Continental Congress, where, of course, as I said, he signed the Declaration of Independence. Furthermore, Thomas Nelson would be elected to the committee that wrote the Articles of Confederation. To be fair, John Dickinson did most of the writing, but the committee that wrote the Articles of Confederation consisted of 1 representative from each of the 13 colonies. Well, at that point, 13 states. So, he was the lone representative of Virginia in a group with 12 other people. But Nelson would go home. He did not sign the Articles of Confederation. He helped write it, but he left because the articles took a long time to sign and blah, blah, blah. One state did it at a time. It wasn't like the Declaration where everyone just dove in and signed at the same time. You had to get approval from your state to accept this new government that they made. So Nelson goes back and he becomes governor of Virginia. He replaces Thomas Jefferson after 2 years. And what's interesting is the Battle of Yorktown takes place while he's governor. As governor, he was technically commander-in-chief. He was in charge of the state militia. And as I've said in other videos, not only was there the Continental Army, but each state had its own independent militia that kind of acted as its own army. Granted, like most of these people, Nelson obeyed the commands of General Washington, because you're only going to win a war if you follow the lead of one commander. And Nelson did this. But he did actually lead Virginia's militia into battle at his home of Yorktown. His hometown, I should say, of Yorktown, under the command of George Washington and the Continental Army, and he helped secure the victory of the Revolution that, almost a decade earlier he helped start by just dumping a little bit of tea into the water. Unfortunately, he did fall ill, and he passed away in 1789, just 50 years old, but he did, I will say, get to see the Constitution enacted. So, in brief, that's the story of Thomas Nelson Jr., the guy with the little tea party, who went on to be governor of Virginia. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit like. If you really liked it, please hit subscribe. I will be coming at you with new video tomorrow, and I can't wait to do so. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.